Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. How are you and how is your health and how is your business?
Thank you for having me. I'm completely fine. I luckily have, we've been really fortunate here at the shop. So
Yeah.
we're hanging in there just like everybody else.
Have you seen, it happened to hit me and then it hit four of my coworkers. And now we've seen this, you're out 2 weeks, you're out 10 days. Has that had an effect on any of your employees or your business?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had people who have had exposures, but we've been able to cover that. We did close one time and everybody got tested, but they've really improved the rapid testing sites too. So most of us are I personally have been getting tested every week just on my way to work. It's super convenient. And yeah, I mean, we have there's a screening process that everybody does every morning. But we've been dealing with this for so long now, it's like second nature to all of us. So yeah.
So I would imagine, so you moved from Westcott Street to your current location. How was that? Why did you decide to move and leave Westcott? And was there a better opportunity? Or because I drive by the building and when I first drove by, I'm like, wow, those colors are interesting. What is going on there? You know what I mean? It really,
Well, I should ask, did you ever go to our Westcott location?
That's a great, no, I like that. Good job giving me a question here. No, I didn't. And
the answer would be pretty apparent because you probably would not be able to walk inside because it was just so cluttered. We were so maxed out on space. It was kind of, I don't even know what we were thinking. 11 years ago when we opened the bike shop on the second floor, made it work. We expanded the cafe. Where the cafe was on Westcott was a place called Second Story Books, and we took over the lease for that space, combined our two second floor spaces, and kind of made half of that more bike shop space and then the cafe. And that cafe space was basically the size of like a master bathroom. And we looked for years for a space in Westcott, and real estate there is just non-existent. So we saw this building, we loved the location, we loved how visible it was, we loved the aesthetic, we saw its potential, and we just kind of fell in love and began our journey renovating it. So
did you guys have to do a lot of renovations, or was it kind of like in good enough shape where you just had to add your touches to it?
Oh no, this was it was a shell of a building. So it was a vacant warehouse. We recently posted on our Instagram, and it originally was a waste paper and rag warehouse. So back in the day, I didn't know this, but they didn't know that you could make paper from trees, or they just hadn't found that process. So it was recycled cotton and other recycled paper. So this was kind of like the baling warehouse. And on one side on Erie Boulevard was the canal, and the other side there was like at least 20, 25 train tracks. So our first floor is up higher, and that was the level of a train car. So it became some other things over the years. More recently, it was like a storage space for Tobin's Furniture Refinishing, which is across the street from us. Before that, it was owned by the Ray Lynn family, and they used it as warehouse space. But when we got it, it was just vacant, and there were like kind of some partitions that we ripped out, but there was no electrical, no plumbing really. So it was a huge project, and it took actually 4 years to complete just because we ran into so much red tape, just getting permits and obviously financing, because small business, we're young, not a lot of, equity and capital. So we did get an SBA loan, but it was a budget project. So we did a lot of the work ourselves, but it was a huge undertaking. We had to have a general contractor, and there's no way that we could have done all the work ourselves, but he did, put everything in place, like our mechanicals, and built our walls. He cut our stairwell in. Sorry, I can't mute the phone.
This is all part of the podcast, so.
Yeah. But we really spent the last year before we moved in here, we built everything out inside. So, like our core group of our bike shop crew helped us build out like all of our countertops, our bar, everything. So our merchandising, all that.
Yeah. Have you ever?
It was a huge project.
Yeah, you kind of sparked my interest a little bit, because the Erie Canal, I don't know if you've ever seen that thing on PBS where they talk about the Erie Canal and how it was built, and all the things that it spurred with industry and the lime and the paper and all the things that it did. It's interesting because that connection, and now it's used as a bike running path, more people use it for recreation than anything. It's kind of unique how you're in a building that, was part of that history, and you're kind of, it's like the second generation or third generation of that history being formed again. Because bikes too, I think I got so many questions in my mind. Like, how do you put bikes and food together? Whose idea was that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess going back to that canal, like that, like history of it was super interesting to us, because we knew it was like kind of, now it's like existing. You can see the path that's connecting the part that went through the city of the Erie Canal Trail, which is awesome. But back when we purchased this building, that was just like a far off, like maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. And it's really awesome to see it happening now. But I mean, back to your question about the bikes and coffee, a lot of people, at first glance maybe don't quite get it, but we kind of see it as a whole, like just coming from our travels. We were really inspired by our honeymoon trip we actually took. We went to Copenhagen, and we're just blown away just by, like, we'd been to Amsterdam, and everybody knows Amsterdam as being like, the bike city, but like Copenhagen is freaking awesome. And just the bike culture there, and everybody just rides a bike. It's no big deal. It's cold, like here. There's so much infrastructure, and just like the cafe culture there is just kind of what we wanted to bring here, and kind of serve as an extension of what we strive to do in the bike shop, which is just make bikes accessible to everyone, and kind of not be that snooty shop where you feel like, oh geez, I don't belong here, I don't need a $10,000 bike, and just like making it a little bit more comfortable to stay, go have a coffee while we fix your bike, or a beer or whatever. That's kind of where that idea came from.
Who helps? Like, you obviously have how many people work for you at your shop?
Well, I mean, in full season, because the bike shop is obviously seasonal, we were at around 30. So hovers between 20 and 30.
Yeah. Which one is, I guess this is a little bit of a trick. Which one is more challenging to run, the bike shop or the food service part?
I mean, they both have their challenges. I think what we've just found recently is just, it doesn't really work if the people don't have the passion for it, So like, whether it's the cafe, if you're not a foodie, like, this is not going to be interesting food for you to make, because it's a lot of work. It's not like dumping it and reheating it. It's like you have to know how to cook and enjoy it. Otherwise, you can tell with the love and care that we put into it. And with bikes too, it's just, you know, as much as we're desperate for bodies during our crazy season, just to like talk to people, help clean the shop, it just doesn't work if you're not super passionate about bikes, and everyone we have is. So
yeah, I have this saying, and I my sons are probably like, Dad, enough. But if you you know, love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And then that's kind of the way we look at people in our industry is, you know, if you don't love helping people and you don't love being part of that process of making people happy, you need to find something else to do, because everybody should be happy and everybody should love what they do, no matter if you're, you know, working in a, you know, DPW or, you know, hospital or healthcare or food service. You got to love what you do.
yes, I totally agree. Like to an extent, but also, you know, I've come to find just doing this, which was like my husband Steve, both of our passions. It, you know, it's a job too. Like it's awesome that we've created this, and it's hard because that kind of like kills your passion for that a little bit. But you know, a job is a job, and I think people forget that too. So
I think people also forget, like, it's your life, you know, and it's, you know, people look at it as, oh, you own a bike shop, you own a, you know, a restaurant, and, you know, oh, how great that would be. But they have no idea the hours and the stress and making payroll and making sure employees are there and making sure that people are on time and that you're doing a good job and that someone's not writing a bad review or someone's not happy. You know, it's really difficult. And I think people don't understand how much goes into it and an understanding of it. That's why we like doing these podcasts, because we're getting different types of views and trying to expose our customers and our friends to this, you know, what it's like to be in a restaurant and a bike shop, but also they can commiserate. Because I know I've talked to a few of them that I've interviewed, and they're like, oh yeah, I had the same problem that Glazed and Confused had, or I had the same problem that OG had, or OIP. You know, it's interesting to hear who do you guys talk to when you have questions, or when you you know, just need to blow off some steam? Is it just you and your husband, or do you have a group of, you know, because there's not a lot of like other bike restaurant, you know, people that you can go to and say, hey.
I was just actually thinking about that this morning, because I have found, like, you know, we've been in the bike industry for a while, and you know, every year our main brands usually like have a launch of their new product, so we get to go out to like Vancouver or Bellingham, Washington, or, you know, various places depending on the vendor. And it's all people who are like bike shop owners or managers. And there's just this instant camaraderie, like you like just completely understand one another. And that's like that venting, commiserating kind of, you know, and you see them year after year, and you're like, oh, I remember sitting next to you on the bus to that thing, and you told me to deposit my cash sales into one account, like just to help with sales tax. And he's like, I did that. It was great. But, you know, in the restaurant industry, at least here, I've found that it's a little harder to do that. And I have felt that like it's more of a competitive vibe. It's not like a as supportive as I maybe would have expected, but you know, that's kind of hard. But you know, there's a few people that we've just kind of just been like, hey, yeah, cool. Just yeah, being able to commiserate, I think, is huge for an owner operator.
Yeah.
And or else it's very isolating.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I watched Salt City yesterday, and I was watching Mayor Walsh, you know, prepping for his speech last night in the State of the City. And I'm sitting there, and I watched him as he left, and he was all by himself, and he just left. And I'm sitting there, and And I'm in public office, so I understand it. It gets a little lonely once in a while because it's not like you can pick the phone up and just say, oh my God, this person did this, or what do you do about this? And you're right, that group, we meet once a month or we get a chance to talk to each other at a conference, but we've lost that with COVID. We can't see each other anymore or face to face and have a meeting, and that's been tough. But COVID kind of has helped maybe the bike shop, hasn't it? Because I noticed that more and more people are getting outdoors and walking and biking. And so do you see that continuing to grow in your side of business?
I mean, this has been an insane year. It's been a roller coaster. The bike industry, when this first happened, we were like, oh geez, what's gonna, is this gonna be it for us? And then it was just a huge boom and the busiest season we've ever had ever. And then, we got our hands on as many bikes as we could, but they just went out of stock, and then parts started going out of stock. So I definitely kind of see this continuing as people are just trying to get out of their house and stay active and we're hopefully going to get our product in for springtime. But it was unparalleled.
I see, I was listening to Dr. Fauci yesterday, and then I was listening to the mayor speak, and I'm thinking like by the end of the fall. So most of us, once this broke and once the good weather came, it kind of felt like it was a little bit more normal, even though it was different. I see that happening. I think as soon as the snow melts, people can get outdoors. I think it's going to be very good, and we're going to be back to normal. And then once the fall hits, as long as the vaccine rolls out and everything happens, I think it's going to be a good season for most people. But the one thing I'm encouraged by is I think it's exciting to see people that have finally realized about shops like yours and all those trails and all those things and getting outdoors. You look at the pools and you look at the bike shops and you look at parks and you look at all the things that we've always tried to do and tried to get people to do, but for some reason they never kind of said, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. Now it's become a real important part. People want to get outdoors. They appreciate it more. They're spending time with their family more. And I think that's great. Do you see any other side effects in your business that are out of COVID that are going to help you guys? Because not many businesses can say they had one of the best years they've ever had during COVID. I know most people in our industry were down anywhere from 30 to 40%. We were fortunate, but it's still been a struggle. The restaurant business has just been decimated by this.
The cafe, we're down at least 60-70%, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
But we're lucky, that historically the bike shop and the cafe have complement each other on our off seasons. But we were fortunate to keep as many people on as we could, and we never closed. So we were just constantly reinventing the wheel, it seemed like, throughout. But I hope, I think that people, COVID really has made people realize what is important to them and what makes them happy. And for a lot of people, they were neglecting a part of themselves that maybe they were happy just being outside, feeling the wind in their face, riding a bike just makes them feel like a kid, or just spending time outside with your
family.
And I don't see that changing for a while, because we're still very much in this, and people are trying to find alternate things to do that, don't cost money. For a bike, it costs money, but.
Well, yeah, you are. Think about recreation. Boating, you can't, I sold mine a couple years ago and I was going to buy one last year. You couldn't find one. And this year's
winter, we just picked up snowshoes and they're already back ordered. We got a few in and then we sold them, and then now we can't get more. But yeah, I'm really hoping that with the opening of the new trail, that's will really be a destination for people to stop, have a bite to eat on a deck, visit the bike shop, and just I really think that this is gonna be more of a tourist destination for Syracuse. Because if you think about it, it's really cool. I don't know how far you've ridden on the Erie Canal Trail, but it doesn't really, like, it goes through our city, and there's tons of businesses just right around here. So I think it's gonna help everybody.
I have actually wanted to go and do that. There's a group of people that do like Buffalo to Albany, and they spend the night in different communities, and I think it's a week long. I just haven't had a chance,
Yeah, that's on our
yeah,
to-do list as well.
yeah. But I want to try that. And so, are you guys doing some of that? Are you guys putting together like bike like ride groups or things of that, or is it just mostly selling and servicing and the food service part of your operation?
No, I mean, back in the day, we started just on a whim because it was just crazy and we didn't have time to ride our bikes, and because we were just working on bikes 24/7 every day of the week. And we're like, we just need to get out there, and just posted, we're going to go for a night ride, because that was when we got out of work. So it was 8:30 at night on a Thursday, and that just kind of grew into this huge Thursday night ride thing that was on hiatus this whole past year. But years going, like, just awesome group of people. Just rode in the city. Sometimes we took excursions, like rode down to Fayetteville or out to Camillus, but we'd always end up at a bar, and then when we opened here, we'd end up here. So
Nothing wrong with that.
It was that, like, really grew into its own thing. It's really fun. So hopefully we'll get to do that again somehow safely. But the summer previous to that, we had started doing more trips, like bike camping and stuff like that. And we have been involved in races and group rides in the past, but obviously COVID has kind of hampered that. But
So recently we shared something in common, and it's not very good. You were broken into and we were broken into.
yeah.
It was so upsetting because when I was watching, I got the phone call, it was a Sunday afternoon, and then I watched the video, and then the police came and said that he had hit 3 or 4 other places. And I'm like, how does this happen? What's happened to you guys? Ours, he literally took the front door right out.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge window.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's unbelievable the cost to replace that.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. And he literally was there for 15 minutes throwing rocks before it broke. So what happened to you guys? And what's been the effect?
I mean, we saw him also trying to throw a rock, and it took him several tries to get our door, but he ended up just breaking one door. He smashed open our cash register, and then he just took a bike that was hanging out right by the door. So, it, like, I guess it wasn't about like the material loss, because in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't even enough to justify like an insurance claim, which, whatever, this happens. But just like to deal with the damage, and then it happened on Thanksgiving. And so Steve I have an alarm on my phone and on his phone. So it's like going off, wakes us up at 2 a.m. And he just came over here, but it was too late. But yeah, it's just disheartening. We still haven't like redone our graphics on that door or anything, but it was, it was really hard, because it was hard to know what is right to do in that situation, because as we know, it was basically a youth. And I did post, and I tagged you guys too, and it was nice to connect with kind of other business owners that this affected. So I originally talked to Diana, who owns the nail salon, and then she had been talking to Jeanette, who owns Las Delicias, and we know her because we used to be like right above, and her son, and I was talking to him, and then Peaks reached out and they're like, oh yeah, he tried to get our window, and she showed me the video and he couldn't get in. So it's just, it was interesting just to share little tidbits about like, what do you have for security? And they're like, yep, I'm gonna do that now. But I was shocked that more businesses don't have alarms.
Yeah. Well, ours was just, we got caught in the middle of something. We were looking at one and going to another one, and
yeah,
it was interesting because when talking to the police, I mean, I guess, we moved from East Syracuse, and then we had a place on Salina Street. Salina Street, we had everything. We had the glass, we had the alarm, and we had one break-in in the 3 years that we were down there. But it was no big deal. It was pretty simple, and it was replaced the next day, and it was, somebody that was just not mentally there. But this kid, I had heard this was his 50th break-in, and they couldn't do anything about it. They just had, and that was kind of disheartening. I like that. But I saw one of the emails go back and forth and one of the posts and the tag, and it was nice to kind of put all of us together. Our glass guy actually put us, he was repairing the glass for the nail salon, and then he has ours to do, and I think he had others, and he said, it's just interesting to see how many businesses this kid is really up and down Erie Boulevard too. I think it's been over a year, the police officer said, that this kid's been going in and out of places. Luckily he didn't get anything. Everything's locked up. But it was still, him going through, and we were all here cleaning up until like 11 or 12. And, just scratch our head and say, why? What were you looking for? And he didn't even take anything. He ended up getting nothing out of our place.
Really? Not even like a knife or anything like that?
No, and that was a crazy thing. You're like, he looked at a couple things and just left. And it's just been different, and it looks like hell, the front of our building, but we have to wait for the insurance, and we have to go through the mullions and their special order. And, kind of going back to what you did, we were a year in construction, but we wanted to, be in this part of the town, and we wanted to be in this building because it's got such a rich history. And being part of it.
I love the renovation of that building. I love all the little touches, like the little Lego bricks that you have in there, and I love it.
Yeah, the building's all about putting food service people together, with our test and education center and our showroom and our parts and our design and then our conference rooms. We've already had a few nonprofits come in and use our conference room just because they don't have that big a conference room. So it's all about putting people together and helping people. We did Salt City, and we designed it for free. We wanted to be part of the project. We wanted to be part of the community, and we wanted to help all those businesses. So it's been a good, we like being in the city, and we like being part of this vibrant. And we think, we wish COVID never happened, but it's happened, and we got to deal with it. But we think once we get through it, the city's just going to surge. And I think we're in a good position to be part of that surge, especially with businesses like yours. And I still go and think, what side of it? I know this is going to be hard for you to answer because some people are like, why? But what part of the business do you like better, the food service or the bike?
Well, so I'm definitely in the cafe like most of the time these days, just because that's where I'm needed the most. And I love just, just being on the line and just cooking. I just love that. But, my responsibilities are so big that I can't. And I love just working on bikes all day. If that was just my job, that would just be great. But I haven't done that for like 3 years. So, and I think for me, I have such interest, ADD. I love to do, I'm involved in too many things. So it's perfect for me because, there's part of me that loves numbers, and I could do the books all day. That would be great. But, obviously there's other fires to put out, other stuff to do. I mean, and my background, I went to school for industrial design. So I do, a lot of website stuff and graphics and all that stuff. And I love doing that, but I think I just love it all. I love being able to design a water bottle in the bike shop. And then, some things just really satisfies me about a schedule that just works out, so yeah, I think I
What's
can't answer.
yeah, that you did well, actually. You answered it really well. So what's your number one item on the menu that you guys sell the most of?
Oh, geez. Oh, what we sell the most of? We definitely sell the most of the high wheeler sandwich or our breakfast quesadilla. And those are both holdovers from the old cafe. Like right now, we try to update our menu at least quarterly, keep things fresh, rotate things seasonally. But man, people just love both those things. We sometimes joke and answer the phone like, Mello Velo bicycles and quesadilla factory. like feels like that some days.
Anthony, he's sitting across from me. I'm because he turned this onto it. And I've had it a couple times, and I haven't had either one of those. So now I've got to add that to my.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I'm a big quesadilla fan. So, all right. Well, I really appreciate you doing this, and I apologize we couldn't be face to face in the same room, but because of COVID, we're trying to be good. But I really want to thank you and thank you for being part of the Gerharz Podcast, and wish you all the best. And thank you again, and stay safe.